This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome to another episode of Growth in Dentistry. I am Katie Polson, and we're so glad to have you here for another really great episode and the last episode of our series on your next hire. And with me today, I have Adam Smith, new Vice President of Marketing. I have my boss in the podcast, people, so if I seem a little bit nervous, just kidding.
Intimidating.
No, really, it's been really great. And I wanted to introduce you to him because he is a wealth of knowledge, not just in marketing, but also in the dental industry. So give us a little snippet, who you are, where you came from.
All right. Adam Smith, like Katie mentioned, started a few weeks ago here at Dental Intelligence. Actually started the very beginning of my career at Dental Intelligence. Before there was any software, pulling all these numbers manually with office managers, and from there, once I left initially, I went bought part of a dental practice, so co-owned the dental practice, and grew that for a few years and sold that. Meanwhile, I've marketed for dozens of dental practices all across the United States. Help them grow, and then after that, once we sold the dental practice, went to a company called Weave. That's another dental software, and worked in their marketing team for 2.5 years, and then now I'm excited to be here. Excited to be back.
Yeah, he's got a very different, like me, a very weavy, like in and out of the dental industry, weird space, but we're glad to have landed the Dental Intel. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit differently. We will get back to our regular programming, but I really wanted, and it's going to be a lot of shameless plugs for Dental Intel today, but bear with us because if you're a current customer, keep listening because you might get some ideas on maybe ways to use Dental Intel's automation and systems that you haven't been using. And if you are not a customer, current listener, then maybe this is another reason for you to kind of consider adopting Dental Intel's solutions to help automate your practice, especially when we're talking about your next hire. So typically if you've not listened to the podcast, I ask questions to the guests, but today what I'm going to do is I took a bunch of questions that we get from our social platforms and customers really on how to implement Dental Intel. And I took some of those questions based off of the goal here, which is solving your hiring dilemmas that you're having. And so we're going to just jump right into those. So the first question from a practice is, our office needs another hygienist. We can't seem to find one, and any advice would be appreciated. I feel this on a real level because my practice that I work at still can't find one for Monday, and so it's a real problem. I'm sure many of you are struggling to find hygienists. So I'll have Adam pop in here, but I'm going to just give some advice. And those of you who have listened to the podcast before, some of the key advice from key opinion leaders that we've had on the show are to reach out to those who make an impression on you like at a coffee store, whatever you're at, that serve you well, and then offer them jobs. I don't know if I really condone like poaching employees, but it is for a lot of areas you guys live in, you can teach them up. You can teach assisting skills. You can teach answering phone skills. But you can't really teach the ability to have empathy or to just be happy in your job. Because if you can be happy in another job, they can be happy with you too. So
I think it's a little different with hygiene, since you have to have
but the hygienist is a little different. Yep.
But I think for many positions in the practice, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. For hygienists, we had one person on the podcast a long time ago to talk about hiring an associate dentist. That concept is a little bit scary for me. It might be scary for some of you, but if if that's really kind of all you can use to get by in a temporary solution, that might be what you do. But as far as dental intel and how we can automate teams, my advice would be to get creative with what the team that you currently have. And there's a lot of solutions that we offer to automate and free up some of your time up front that expand functions and be competitive in the market. Use and you can use data to drive and afford so that you can afford to pay a hygienist. So one of the things that Dental Intel does and is it allows you to collect data on, so for instance, your hygienist, right? You have maybe one hygienist that you need, but do you actually need them, or do you would it be better to be hiring an assistant, maybe in that position, to do the first part of it, and then your hygienist comes in and the second part, right? You're just getting creative, maybe, and making those decisions. Have you helped practices, or with your own practice, I guess? What would you suggest about using data to hire or to get creative with your team, I guess,
Yeah,
switching it up?
I mean, even when we owned our practice, which is, I mean, we're 3 years removed from that now. We still had to get creative with making it make sense for the hygienist and for the practice, and that really starts with understanding your numbers around hygiene. You know, how much you're paying, what the open chair time is, how productive you are in hygiene, what hygiene is feeding into the doctor's schedule. All of those factors play into how much you can afford to pay a hygienist and still make it make sense for the practice. So if you're not starting there, you need to start there, and then from there work into, okay, we know this, that our hygienist is maxed out capacity wise. We don't have a ton of open chair time that we could look for ways to fill that chair time, whether that's cancellations, reducing cancellations, those types of things. And let's say we know that we can afford to pay our hygienist 40% of their production based on what would make sense for the practice to still be making money off of that hygiene. I've seen some practices that I've worked with consider hygiene to be completely a loss leader,
Yeah.
and I hope that we're not to that point where that's the case. But you'd have to look at how they feed production at the dentist's schedule if that's the case. But at any rate, if you don't understand the numbers driving hygiene, how much your hygienist is producing on an hourly basis, what your costs are on that production, then it's really difficult to say, oh yeah, we can afford to pay what your open chair time is, so that okay, we're producing X amount of dollars in 8 hours of our hygienist time, which means we're averaging X amount of production per hour, which means that if we want to stay profitable, we can pay our hygienist whatever that dollar amount ends up being. If you don't know that, you could put yourself in a worse position by hiring an additional person even.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And being able to understand that you're talking about, like, the value of the hygienist, right? If the goal of the hygienist and the only reason why you plan on hiring them is just because you need them to do pro fees, then I would also suggest that you kind of expand your reason of why you need a hygienist. The dental intel's ability to for those of you that don't have our software, maybe those of you that do, you can use our what's called Provider Pulse. It's one of our dashboards, and you get in there and you can look at the diagnostic percentages, treatment dollar acceptances percentages, all of those percentages based off of a team percentage. So you can take a hygienist that works with a specific doctor, or multiple hygienists that work with a doctor, and see what their treatment acceptance is, what their diagnostic percentage is, and you can really kind of take your feelings and put them into data and understand, like, okay, well, the value of my hygienist is X dollars amount in treatment acceptance, because whenever I work with her, or we team treatment plan together, and she keys it up and I come in and diagnose it, then we get 50% better or whatever. And so it's really hard to gather that data. What you suggest outside of using Dental Intel software?
Definitely, and that's what we use in our practice. One other recommendation is use your existing team members. If you're looking for who knows other hygienists, guess who it is? It's your hygienist,
Yeah.
right? That's who knows. So make sure that they are extremely happy before you go into finding an additional person. Figure out ways to make their life better, ways to make them more proactively willing to talk about this to their friends that they maybe went to hygiene school with, or in the community that they also know are hygienists.
Yeah.
And that's a way that makes recruiting for your practice significantly easier if you have someone on your team saying, really, it is the best place you can work.
Yeah, for sure. And that takes not just that takes creating a great culture, which this next question leads right into. So this next question from someone on our social media was, how do I get my team to show up to work on time, ready to work? And this is this is a tricky one. But one of the things, and many of you have, if you haven't heard of our morning huddles, or our morning huddle in our dental intel dashboard, it really allows you to all kind of gather together. But good morning systems create a great culture. It's not just like something that we talk about here at Dental Intel. It's just known. The entire last month's podcast we talked about morning huddle because it really is that important. And a lot of times I think it gets a lot of eye rolls, like we're going to talk about morning huddle again. But it really does. It creates great solutions, or great staff. Sorry. And it also helps to reduce turnover, and it creates a great place to work so that you can have, when you do need to hire, you can have your employees say, "Oh, I want you to come work with me. My office is so great." So one of the things that I had heard from one of our KOLs that come on the podcast before was to assign a task to report on morning huddle. And I don't know, I don't know if you ever used the mobile app with Dental Intel before, but I love it. I mean, as far as mobile apps go, I'm telling you, it's not that sexy. but it does the job well. And as a hygienist, and I've spoken about this before, but I would use it the night before to evaluate my schedule to see what patients what patients I planned on looking at the treatment and seeing like, oh, we probably should address that, or unscheduled family members or things like that. But we could have, and we should have taken it a step further, which is everybody's prepared to talk about one of those metrics at the morning huddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a big piece of getting people excited and getting them to show up on time. That's the culture that you build. And one thing that I found in working with teams is that if if someone doesn't have a metric that they're consistently looking at, that they know they're being tracked on, that they can see when they're making progress on, that people are getting excited about when they hit, that's one thing that can really change the culture, is when they have this thing that they're responsible for, that they're seeing their progress. That progress really helps them to be excited, and then when everyone else gets excited about it, when they hit it and when they're exceeding it, and when they're changing that to be even higher because of how well they're doing, that gets people really excited, and it changes the culture from, oh, I don't want to go to morning huddle, I don't want to be there on time, I'm going to come in last second, to really being excited and being ready to be there and get to work.
Yeah, one thing that, as you were talking, it jogged my memory that, but I mean, more than likely, the reason why they keep showing up late, unless it's like in circumstances that's not open. But if it's a habit, it means that they don't value the morning huddle, which means that either they don't feel needed there or they don't feel valued there. And for sure, getting, like, if I go, I know what's going on with this metric, or what I'm being measured on, or I need to present on these measurements um, for our team's goal, creates value for them to want to be there, and want to be there ready to go. Yeah, I really like what you said there. One of the things that I also love the idea of, this is best part, worst part. I actually, my family does this. Instead of like at the end of the day we say like, oh, how was your day, we do what, like, and I don't ever drive it. It's my 8-year-old. She's always like, what was the best part, worst part? So, what was the best part of your day and what was the worst part of your day? And doing this on a team level and looking at like the day before, what was the best part of the day and what was the worst part of the day? And like having everybody kind of go through that and giving an opportunity to shine or like highlight other team members is a really great opportunity for. So you don't have to take that example, but take something like that. So instead of just talking about numbers and being measured, also highlight things that can't be measured, which are um, maybe they were extra nice to a certain patient, or one time I had to help somebody in the bathroom. It was the worst. That was the
No,
worst part.
yeah.
I would have said that. I would have said that every day. About anything. Anything else you can add before? Not that you have to, but
No, I think that pretty much sums it up as
yeah.
far as like things that we've used. But yeah, really look at, if people aren't showing up on time, look at that excitement level and look for things that you can start to celebrate, right? Like sometimes things can get stagnant and you're like, what do we have to celebrate, right? We're doing the same thing over and over and over again. But really look, and sometimes you got to look pretty hard, but look for the things to celebrate and start celebrating those. And you'll see as you start celebrating those, they become more and more things to celebrate. And as you start building that traction with that, you'll start seeing people more and more excited to show up on time, to even show up early, to get the things done that they
Yeah.
need to get done.
Really great. And I wanted, before we move on for this topic, for those of you that don't understand or know our morning huddle allows you to fully customize exactly the metrics that you want to look at. So if you can if looking at your production is not important to you, but looking at collection percentage is more important to you, you can take that off and put that on there. And you can look at yesterday, today, and tomorrow on your schedule, and then we give like a little motivational minute. And it really does take, I don't know, whoever is preparing the morning huddle for the day before. It's usually a pretty cumbersome task if you are pulling all of the numbers that we pull, and this just you do it by a click of a button. So just for the morning huddle feature alone, I would say that if you're thinking about getting done until that, it's a worthy thing to get. So okay, next question is: COVID has really pushed our practice to rethink our systems and why we treat patients. We adopted online scheduling and use the patient finder and filter, I guess that's what they probably mean, patient filter, to keep track of patients we lost during the shutdown and beyond. What else should we be thinking of? And many parts of I hope that we're out of this like place where we're constantly thinking about the pandemic. But uh, I think we all learned a lot of valuable lessons through the pandemic. One of them was we thought we had a very stable job, at least I did. And all of a sudden, I was not working. And so many of you felt that same way. And keeping track of your patients, I love that that this particular person adopted online scheduling and patient finder. And so I just wanted to tell you what that is first, if you don't know. So the patient finder is actually something that a product of ours that, or a tool feature, whatever you want to call them, was born out of the pandemic. And what it really allows you to do is to be able to find your specific patient that you want. So you can filter it down to say, so without using a pandemic example, say you have um, a crown opening that they canceled, you can find all of the crowns that you've had treatment planned in the last 30 days who've not scheduled and who have remaining insurance over $800. And you can find all of those patients very easily. And then with the addition of Modento, now with our company Modento that we've acquired, you can automatically just text all of those patients and communicate with them the way that they want to be communicated with, which is through text message, and and message 10 patients at a time and get that appointment scheduled like in 2 seconds. And so that's patient finder. Online scheduling, some of you may have heard, LocalMed is a company that we've owned for a couple years now, and it allows you to schedule in real time, 24 hours a day, and you get to specifically customize the way that you want the patient to schedule. And as of in a couple weeks from now, you'll actually be able to completely customize what you want it to say, so you can customize what the appointment says. So that's really exciting as well. So just for those of you that maybe don't know what we're talking about when we talk about patient finder online scheduling, but that one thing I would say, and I'll let you if you've got any other suggestions. But my suggestion would be Modento's text forms and consents. For those of you that aren't using a way to text or email your forms or consents to your patients ahead of time, I think that I hesitate to say that you're going to get left behind, but I think you're going to get left behind. Would you agree?
I'd agree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It feels like people. Well, it's good for the practice, obviously, because then they're not filling out their forms in your waiting room. But the other thing is that it gives the patient enough time to really be able to like consent to the treatment. I worked at reception for a long time, and I always felt um, like I was handing them this form, and they just felt this like urgency to just sign it. And maybe they really wanted to take a look at it, but they felt like weird sitting there reading it. And the people that do sit there and read it, I kind of was like, "Oh, come on already." But that's important. It's important for them to actually sign and consent. So that's the one thing that I really think is valuable, is to be able to send them, but also you can have it all done, and it just saves so much time. So if the pandemic taught us one thing, it's that there's a lot of things that we can do online that we have not been doing online.
Yeah, I agree. And those forms. So this person specifically asked, what else can we be doing to make sure we're keeping track of the patients we
Yeah.
may have lost during the shutdown.
Mhm.
These forms now you can go in and make sure that all the contact information that you have on people is updated,
Mhm.
which for keeping track of patients is huge. You make sure you have everyone's email address that they're actually going to get, their cell phone number, um, and now when you want to make sure that you're in contact with them, you can send out a bulk email reminding them of, hey, you haven't been in 6, 12, whatever the case may be, months, and pushing that kind of content out in front of them to their places that they're going to actually get that content is a huge way to make sure that they're coming back in. And one thing I think COVID brought about a lot of changes towards digital check-ins, towards digital forms, towards contactless payments. Um, as you're making these changes, just make sure that when you make them, this is one thing that I feel like COVID did really well, is make sure that you're communicating them in, we're doing this for your best interest. When you can
Mhm.
say like, this is so that fewer people are exposed to COVID,
Yeah.
that's obviously best interest, and people adopted things really quickly. But
Mhm.
COVID isn't necessarily a unique situation in that it just gave us a way to say this is for your best interest. You could always position a new change in technology as this is for your best interest. Make sure that when you do that, it, your communication isn't, hey, we have a new reminder system,
Yeah.
right? It's, hey, we want to make sure that your appointments are as seamless as possible. We've got a reminder system that really helps us keep track of those
Yeah.
things.
That's a really good insight. And also with your team. I think a lot of times teams are difficult, and this isn't helping you lose your patients, but you can use that same concept if you're having a hard time with your team adopting new technology. It's not this isn't like so that I can keep an eye on you. This is like to help. This is in your best interest. This is to help make your life a lot easier. So
Yep.
yeah, I like that. See, he's really good marketing. He's really good at just spinning that and making it
Uh,
making it seem like it was the patient's idea. Okay. The other thing that if you for a payment solution, many of you know that we have a payment solution here at Dental Until. For those of you that don't, it's really not a payment solution, it's an accounts receivable solution, and it allows you to keep track of, we keep track of the patients that owe you money. We help you reach out to them, and we also help you follow up with them if they haven't paid. And it's really unlike anything else out there on the market. But as far as keeping track of patients that owe you money, that's that's a really tricky thing to do. And sometimes people back to hiring hire just one person to do that one thing. And we talked about this on the podcast before, but hiring systems and automation and that will help alleviate some of the people and also help keep track of the patients that. So if you, I would, I if you want to know more information, we went real depth at the very beginning of this month on a podcast with James Grover. I suggest you check out that podcast. Okay, next question is follow-ups. We don't use them. Tell me why we should. I added this because I know that it doesn't directly say, hey, like we need help with hiring, but follow-ups, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is a really great tool in dental intel. And if those of you who've signed up for dental intel or don't know about it, if you signed up for dental intel and you're not using follow-ups, I hope to convince you today that you should start having your team use follow-ups, because it will help you hire automation and systems. So follow-ups is it's pretty much like your sticky notes in your software. And in marketing, we use follow-ups all the time, not our follow-ups, but we use a system called a CRM. And this is pretty much a lot like a CRM in marketing. I mean, like we live and by our CRM that we use. And without it, we can't keep track of people that come in and people that we should reach out to. And you shouldn't expect your front desk team to be able to do the same thing without a solution besides remembering on a sticky note that they canceled their appointment from COVID forever ago, and you should follow up with them. And so follow-ups really allows the front desk to be able to to create essentially lists of people that they need to follow up with about hygiene care, about outstanding payments, about unscheduled treatment, and it's a really great solution to be able to do that. And the thing that and it frees up their time and it makes them so that they can work on other things that are more important, like saying hi to your patient when they walk in the door, make them feel greeted. And so the other thing, and probably, I don't know, this is probably what you'll like the best, is tracking. You can track your front desk work. And not like Big Brother, look over their shoulder, but there's a follow-ups report in there. And without it, if your team's not using it, then it's not successful. But if your team uses it uses their follow-ups religiously, you can get a really good idea of when they call, how many times do they make an appointment? How many unscheduled appointments are they making? Who has the best success when they make a phone call? And those metrics cannot be measured in your practice management software.
Yeah, and I would say this is one that's pretty easy to like put your the foot forward of this is in your best interest. To your front desk person, this is help me see all the things that you're doing because I'm in the back, right?
Yeah.
I'm practicing dentistry, or if you're a hygienist, I'm not seeing all those things. But when you track them through follow-ups, I get to see what you're doing. And on the flip side, if you're a front desk person, this is a way that you can show
Sure.
what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? It's not necessarily like Katie said, it's not a prove to me that you're doing something. It's help me see all the things that you're doing so I can appreciate those.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had some practices even incentivize monetarily to their front desk team members this way. If you schedule this much money over a certain amount of time, we'll incentivize that. And regardless of whether you do that or not, it really does help them to feel empowered to know that they're not just answering a phone or they're not just reaching out to a patient to get them scheduled. You can actually see the numbers of, I helped this many people get the treatment that they needed, and they can feel more involved in like the healthcare part of dentistry, because that's the part that's, I mean, really the best, is just taking care of people, and helping them feel healthier and giving them a better quality of life. And so being able to track that it was really a gift to your front desk to be able to show like what they are achieving. So yeah, I like that. It's really good. All right. Those are all the questions that I had. I'm going to ask you one because we ask the same question every time and you haven't been here.
All right.
What does growth in dentistry mean to you, Adam Smith?
Growth in dentistry, to me, there's not one answer to what growth in dentistry means. Growth in dentistry to each dentist and each office might look different. But the overall philosophy of growth in dentistry to me is being able to see where you are and conceptualize where you want to get to and put together the plan to get there. And I feel like this is one of the reasons that brought me back to dental intelligence. I feel like we do a phenomenal job of helping people get a picture of what their practice looks like from a metric standpoint and giving them insight into, let's say you want more patients in the chair. What things do you need to be working on? Or let's say you want fewer patients in the chair, but you want to still make the same amount of money. We give you the metrics there to help you accomplish that, right? So growth in dentistry to me means, like I said, being able to see where you are and conceptualize where you want to get to and put together the plan of action to get there.
Good. Really good. Well, this has been fun. Okay. This has been Growth in Dentistry, a Dental Intelligence podcast. Again, special thanks to my guest, Adam Smith. You can find more information on our webpage about the products and softwares that we talked about at dentalintel.com. And again, thank you to our marketing department, specifically Kat and Brittany, for all your work on this podcast. I'm Katie Polson. Keep growing.